The global defense world has been shaken by a sudden and unexpected development that is now sending shockwaves through Washington. Canada, one of America's closest military allies, is facing a serious warning from the Pentagon after moving closer to a potential fighter jet deal involving Sweden's Saab Gripen. What seemed at first like a routine procurement, discussion has now escalated into a strategic dispute that could reshape North American defense cooperation, NATO politics, and the future of Western airpower. At the heart of this controversy is Canada's long-running struggle to replace its aging CF-18 fighter fleet. For years, Ottawa has debated what aircraft should form the backbone of its air force for the next 4 decades. The United States has aggressively pushed the F-35 Lightning II, portraying it as the only true 5th-generation solution compatible with NATO's future warfare needs. However, Canada's renewed interest in the Saab Gripen has triggered deep concern inside the Pentagon, according to defense insiders. U.S. officials believe a Gripen deal could undermine American strategic influence in North America. The Pentagon's warning is not just about a single aircraft purchase. It reflects broader anxieties about interoperability, intelligence sharing, and control over future combat networks. In Washington's view, Canada choosing Gripen over the F-35 would represent a symbolic break from decades of U.S.-led defense integration. The Gripen is not just another fighter jet. It is a highly advanced, cost-effective, and flexible aircraft designed specifically for smaller nations operating under tight budgets and challenging conditions. Sweden built the Gripen with dispersed operations in mind, allowing it to take off from highways, operate with minimal ground crew, and rapidly redeploy in crisis scenarios. For Canada, with its vast geographies and Arctic responsibilities, these features are extremely attractive, but this is exactly what worries Washington. The F-35 program is not merely a weapons system. It is a massive political, industrial, and strategic ecosystem dominated by the United States. Countries that buy the F-35 become deeply embedded in U.S.-controlled software updates, logistics systems, and classified data networks. A Canadian decision to move away from this ecosystem could weaken us leverage in North American defense planning. Pentagon officials have reportedly warned Canadian counterparts that choosing Gripen could complicate NORAD operations. NORAD, the Joint U.S.-Canada Aerospace Defense Command, relies heavily on seamless data sharing, sensor fusion, and coordinated response systems. While Saab has repeatedly insisted that Gripen can fully integrate with NATO systems, Washington remains skeptical, particularly about sensitive U.S. intelligence and related data. Another layer of tension comes from industrial politics. The F-35 program supports tens of thousands of American jobs and involves a complex supply chain across multiple U.S. states. Losing a major buyer like Canada would be a significant blow to Lockheed Martin and could trigger political backlash inside the United States. Members of Congress have already expressed concern that allies exploring alternatives could weaken the F-35's global dominance. From Canada's perspective, however, the Gripen offers something the F-35 does not: genuine industrial sovereignty. Saab has promised extensive technology transfer, local assembly, and long-term maintenance work inside Canada. This would allow Canadian firms to gain deep expertise rather than remaining dependent on U.S.-controlled systems. For Ottawa, this promise aligns with national interests in building domestic defense capability and reducing long-term costs. Cost is another critical factor driving Canada's interest in Gripen. The F-35 has been plagued by cost overruns, expensive maintenance requirements, and persistent software issues. While the U.S. insists these problems are being resolved, Canada remains cautious. The Gripen, by contrast, has a reputation for lower operating costs and easier maintenance, making it attractive for a country balancing defense spending with social and economic priorities. Washington's warning too? Canada is therefore about more than aircraft performance. It reflects a deeper struggle over who sets the rules of Western defense in the 21st century. The Pentagon fears that if Canada successfully chooses Gripen without facing consequences, other allies may follow. Countries in Europe, Asia, and even the Middle East could see this as proof that there are viable alternatives to U.S. fighter dominance. This fear is not unfounded. In recent years, several nations have shown interest in diversifying their defense suppliers. Rising costs, political strings, and concerns over sovereignty have pushed some governments to look beyond traditional U.S. platforms. A Canadian Gripen deal would be especially symbolic. Because of Canada's unique position as America's closest military partner, the Arctic dimension adds even more complexity as competition in the Arctic intensifies. The United States wants maximum alignment with Canada on surveillance, interception, and deterrence. Pentagon planners argue that a common fighter platform simplifies joint operations in extreme environments. They worry that introducing Gripen could create technical and logistical friction at a time when unity is seen as critical Yet Canadian defense analysts counter that Gripen is specifically designed for harsh climates and rapid response missions. Sweden operates the aircraft in cold, austere conditions similar to Canada's northern regions. Supporters argue that Gripen may actually be better suited for Arctic defense than the heavier, more maintenance-intensive F-35. Public opinion in Canada is also divided. Some view US pressure as heavy-handed interference in a sovereign decision. Critics argue that Canada should choose the aircraft that best meets its needs, not the one Washington prefers. Others warn that alienating the United States could carry serious consequences for intelligence sharing, trade, and broader diplomatic relations inside Washington. The debate is equally intense. Some officials believe the Pentagon's warning risks pushing allies away by appearing coercive. Others argue that maintaining US technological leadership requires firm red lines, allowing close partners to drift or ward alternative platforms, they say, could weaken collective deterrence against adversaries like Russia and China. Saab, for its part, has moved carefully. The company emphasizes that Gripen is fully NATO compatible and already operates alongside US aircraft in joint exercises. Saab executives stress that their offer to Canada is about partnership, not confrontation with the United States. Nevertheless, the political implications of the deal are impossible to ignore. As negotiations continue behind closed doors, the stakes keep rising. A Canadian decision in favor of Gripen could reshape the balance of power in the global fighter market. It could encourage more competition, drive innovation, and reduce reliance on a single supplier. At the same time, it could strain the US-Canada defense relationship in ways not seen for decades. For Washington, this moment is a test of influence. Can the United States persuade its closest ally to stay within the F-35 ecosystem? Or will Canada chart a more independent path? The Pentagon's warning suggests that patience is wearing thin. For Ottawa, the decision is about sovereignty, capability, and long-term strategy. Choosing Gripen would signal a desire for greater autonomy and cost control. Choosing the F-35 would reaffirm deep integration with US defense systems, but at a higher financial and political price. The outcome of this standoff will resonate far beyond Canada. Allies around the world are watching closely. If Canada stands firm and proceeds with Gripen, it could mark the beginning of a more multipolar defense market. If Washington succeeds in steering Ottawa back toward the F-35, it will reinforce the United States' central role in shaping Allied military choices. One thing is certain, this is no longer just a procurement story. It is a geopolitical signal, a test of alliance dynamics, and a preview of how power and influence will be negotiated in the future of global defense. As the Pentagon warns, and Canada weighs its options, the world is witnessing a pivotal moment that could redefine the rules of military partnership for years to come. A sudden warning from the Pentagon has pushed Canada's fighter jet debate into the global spotlight. What began as a procurement discussion has now turned into a strategic flashpoint, as Washington reacts strongly to Canada's growing interest in Sweden's Saab Gripen fighter jet. This move has raised alarms inside the US defense establishment and sent shockwaves through political and military circles on both sides of the border. Canada has been searching for a replacement for its aging CF-18 fleet for years. The decision is not just about buying new aircraft, it is about shaping Canada's air power, alliances, and defense posture for the next 40 years. The United States has long expected Canada to fully commit to the F-35 Lightning II, the flagship fifth-generation fighter produced by Lockheed Martin. However, Canada's willingness to seriously consider the Gripen has challenged that expectation. Pentagon. Officials reportedly warn that a Gripen deal could complicate North American defense coordination, particularly under NORAD. The US sees the F-35 as more than a fighter jet. It is a networked combat system deeply integrated with American intelligence, surveillance, and command structures. From Washington's perspective, Canada stepping outside this ecosystem risks creating gaps in data sharing and joint operations. The Gripen, however, offers Canada a very different set of advantages. Designed by Sweden for rapid response and dispersed operations, the aircraft can operate from short runways and even highways. It requires fewer ground crew and lower maintenance costs compared to heavier jet. For a country with vast territory, remote regions, and harsh weather conditions, these features are extremely attractive. Cost is one of the most sensitive issues in this debate. The F-35 program has faced criticism over high acquisition and operating expenses. Although supporters argue that costs will decrease over time, skepticism remains strong in Canada. The Gripen is widely seen as more affordable to buy and operate, allowing Canada to maintain a strong air force without overwhelming its defense budget. Industrial benefits also play a major role. Saab has promised significant technology transfer, local production, and long-term industrial participation for Canadian companies. This would give Canada greater control over maintenance, upgrades, and future development. In contrast, The F-35's core systems remain tightly controlled by the United States, limiting the buyer's autonomy. This is where Washington's concern deepens. The Pentagon worries that if Canada prioritizes sovereignty and cost over full integration with U.S. systems, other allies may follow the same path. A Canadian Gripen deal would be a powerful signal that alternatives to American fighters are not only viable but politically acceptable. The political pressure inside the United States is intense. The F-35 program supports thousands of jobs and represents a major pillar of American defense exports. Losing Canada as a customer would be seen as a symbolic setback, especially given the close military relationship between the two countries. Some U.S. lawmakers have warned that allies benefiting from American security guarantees should align their major defense purchases with U.S. platforms. In Canada, reactions are mixed. Some officials view U.S. pressure as an attempt to interfere with a sovereign decision. They argue that Canada should choose the aircraft that best fits its unique needs, not one selected to satisfy Washington. Others caution that damaging relations with the United States could have serious consequences for intelligence sharing, defense cooperation, and broader diplomatic ties. The Arctic factor adds urgency to the debate. As global competition increases in the Arctic, both the U.S. and Canada see the region as strategically critical. Washington argues that operating the same fighter platform would simplify joint patrols and rapid response missions. Supporters of the Gripen counter that the jet's cold weather performance and quick turnaround make it ideally suited for Arctic defense. Saab has been careful to frame its offer as cooperative rather than confrontational. The company emphasizes that Gripen is NATO compatible and already operates alongside U.S. aircraft in joint exercises. Saab insists that choosing Gripen would not weaken Canada's alliance commitments, but rather strengthen its independent capabilities. Behind closed doors, negotiations continue while the pressure builds. Canada faces a defining choice: fully align with the US-led F-35 ecosystem, or pursue a more independent path with the Gripen. Washington's warning suggests that this decision carries consequences far beyond aircraft specifications. Whatever Canada decides, the impact will be global. Allies are watching closely to see whether one of America's closest partners can successfully push back against U.S. defense expectations. This moment may redefine how much freedom allies truly have in choosing their military future, and whether the balance of power in the global fighter jet market is about to change.